Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Lamed Beis, Amud Beis. Starting with Lamed Beis, Amud Aleph, 11 lines from the bottom. The Gemara had brought a brisa stating that if a person owns a fig tree and he tells somebody else he can take a basket and fill up that basket with his figs, and he may eat it, it's his figs. When that person is koveya su'uda, then he must make meiser midemai. He takes meiser misofik. Says the Gemara in the Hemshech, quoting the brisa again. Omar mar, bameh dvar mamurim, be'am haaretz. What are we talking about over here? Where the owner of the fig tree is an am haaretz. And therefore, the assumption is that since the am haaretz perhaps took meisers, when he goes ahead and is kovei su'uda, he only takes meiser midmai. Because since the owner knows how much is filling up a basket, so then he would have taken meiser, but it's not certain since he's an am haaretz, whereby again, we're saying that he takes meiser midmai. Aval, bechover, oichel ve'eno tzorich la'aser, di Rebbe. But Rebbe says, but if the owner was indeed a chover talmid chacham, then according to Rebbe, you can rely on him 100%. Again, he knows how much fills up the kalkala, the basket. Thereby, he will then take meiser because he would not want that the person he's giving the figs to should then have something that's not heter. So therefore, he can go ahead and eat those figs without even meisering it altogether. Says the Gemara, Hai am haaretz de kamar le leman. This am haaretz who owns the fig tree, who is he speaking to? Who is the one who's going to ahead and eat the figs? If we're talking about that he's giving those figs to another am haaretz, ma'asron demai mitzayis. Will an am haaretz pay attention? Will he listen, take heed, and take meiser? Certainly not. Ella be'am haaretz dekamar lechaver. Rather, we're talking about what the am haaretz gives permission to a chaver, a talmid chacham, to take a basket and fill up that basket with figs. Says the Gemara, Ema Seifa. Then let us explain, therefore, the Seifa, if that's the case. Nirin devarai midivrei abba. Rebbe pronounces that my position is a better position than that of my father, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, because I hold, again, that the one who's going to eat the figs does not have to take meiser at all. Whereas my father's position is that he does have to take meiser. Why is my position better? Explains Rebbe, Mutov sheyechashdu chaverim litroim shelo min hamukaf ve'al yachilu la'am haaretz tevolim. Better that the chaverim should be suspected of taking tvua, their meiser from tvua from a different place. In this case, the fig owner, he had to take the meiser from somewhere else. Lo min hamukaf, not from the proximity where he was. Normally that's a problem because after all, maybe that tavur that he's taking meiser from does not exist and therefore was eaten up already. Well, there'll be a problem of tevil. So better that he does this and takes meiser the shalom min hamukaf from an area that's not in front of him, not in his proximity, than being machshil somebody with tvolim, amayards with tvolim. So the Gemara points out, where there's amayards, what we're talking about over here. Ask the Gemara, amayards, my boy Hasim, what are they doing over there? In other words, we're talking about a chaver. According to the ratio we just said, was a chaver. So therefore explains, Omar Ravina, Reisha be'am haaretz she'omar lechaver. The ratio is talking about the fig tree owner is an am haaretz, and he is giving the instructions, the rights to fill up the basket to a chaver, to a talmid chacham. But the seifa is bechaver she'omar la'am haaretz. The chaver acher shoymoi. Whereas the seifa is talking about a scenario where the owner is a chaver, talmid chacham, who gives instructions, who allows an am haaretz to fill up a basket with his figs. And a talmid chacham overhears, he listens also to the talmid chacham who gives the instructions to the am haaretz to fill up the basket. Rebbe Rebbe is of the opinion that chaver who overheard the owner of the fig tree telling the am haaretz, so that chaver then can go ahead and eat subsequently without taking meiser. since he heard that a Talmid Chacham was telling an Am Ha'aretz that he can go ahead and fill up the fig tree, the basket with his figs. So he assumes that the Talmid Chacham already took Meiser. Devadai Isurei Meiser Ahu Chaver Kama Ilavoi. Certainly then, that first Talmid Chacham who owns the fig tree took the Meiser out, whereby now, when this Talmid Chacham were to eat those figs, he would not have to take Meiser. We're on top of Lemon Beis, Amud Beis, on the third line. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Oimer, Lo Yoichal Ad Sheyaser, whereas Rabbi Shimon Gamliel argues on his son, Rebbe, and he says, no, the Talmid Chacham who will then eat from these figs, he will then have to take Meiser Vadai. Because since Talmidei Chacham are not suspected of taking their Meiser from another place, Shalom Mina Amukaf, not in its proximity. Again, the concern is that if they were to take Meiser from other Tvua that is not present, maybe they would make a mistake by taking Meiser from Tvua that doesn't really exist. It was already eaten up, it was already finished, whereby they'll then be Machshil Tevel. So therefore, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is of the opinion that the Talmid Chacham will eat the fruits, the figs, only by first being Meiser Bevadai. Rabbi, on that, Rabbi says, Mutav sheyechashtu chaverim litrom shalom min hamukaf vayachilu amei aretz tvolim. Rabbi says, my position is better because better that the Talmid Chachamim should be suspected of taking Meiser from lo min hamukaf than having the problem being machshil those with tvolim, the amei aretz with tvolim. The Gemara wants to then understand what is the machloikis between Rabbi and his father, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Rabbi sovar neichale lechaver de la'avid hu isura klila v'lo le'avid am ha'aretz isur rabba. Rabbi's opinion that's better that the Talmid Chacham take upon himself an isur klila, an isur drabban in this case, of being maisrin shalom min hamukaf, then providing the potential for an Isser Rabbah, an Isser Diraisa of Tevel, by an Amaretz eating Tevel. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Sovar Neichale Lechavir de La'aved Am Ha'aretz, Isura, Rabbah, V'iu Afilu Isur Klila Loila Ovid. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is of the opinion that better that the Talmid Chacham, he's more afraid that he should then do even an Isur Klila, and says that if the Am Ha'aretz is going to then not be responsible, and he's going to be negligent in regard to taking Meiser, then it's his problem, and therefore better that he do a Isser Rabbah than I do an Isser Klila. The next Mishnah discusses the inyan of the Erev Techumim. Erev Techumim is placed in a place where the person wants to be Koine Shvisa on the onset of Shabbos, whereby he is going to put the Erev Tchumin in the place where he's going to then be shoives, or at least close enough where he can bring the Erev, the two Su'udos, to where he's going to be shoives on the onset of Shabbos. Says the Mishnah, Nisonoi be'ilon lemala me'asara tfochim, ein eruvai eruv. If he's going to place the Erev Tchumin on a tree higher than 10 tfochim, then it's not going to be a valid Eruv. He won't have access to then bring that Eruv to him. The Gemara will explain. However, if it is going to be less than asar tfachim on that tree, then he will be able to then have access to it, whereby he can then go ahead and have a valid Eruv. Again, the Gemara will explain why that is so. The Sefer of the Mishnah goes on to say, Nasna bebar afilu amok. If he places the Eruv in a bore, in a pit, even if it's going to be the depths of 100 amos, still it's going to be a valid Eruv, and again we will explain why that is so. Says the Gemara, Yosiv Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Asi, Verova bar Nasan. These three sages were sitting together. The Yosiv Rav Nachman Gabayu, and Rav Nachman the Gadol was sitting next to them, V'yaspe v'ka'amre, and they were sitting there discussing this Mishnah and analyzing it. Hi Elon dekoi hecha. Where is this Elon that the Mishnah is talking about situated? If we're going to say that the Elon is situated in the Rishus HaYachid, what does it make a difference that the Mishnah states if it's higher than Asara Tvachim, then it's not going to be a valid Eruv? It's lower than Asara Tvachim, it will be a valid Eruv? What does it make a difference, the height? Rishus HaYachid Oila Ad Larakia. It will always be a Rishus HaYachid in the entire area where the tree is, whether it's higher or less than the Asar Tvachim. So either way, it should be the same din. And yet, the Mishnah makes a distinction. It says if it's higher than Asar Tvachim, it's not going to be valid. Ve'ela dekoi b'rshus harabim deniskaven lishbois heicha. Rather, therefore, you want to say that the Elon is situated in the Rishus Harabim. So ask the Gemara, if that's the case, where is he shoyves? If you want to say he's actually shoyves on the tree itself, where the Eruv is, then there's certainly no problem. Because huve Eruv b'makam echad hu. Doesn't make a difference, even if it's going to be higher than Atzar Tvachim. He's going to be in the same place as Eruv. So therefore, the Mishnah that states if it's higher than Asar Tvachim is not a good Eruv would not be correct. Answers the Gemara Ella when we're talking about the Niskavein Lishbois Lamata. He's miskavein to be shoyves on the ground there in the Rishus Harabim. Then we can understand the chiluk in the Mishnah. When the Mishnah states that the Eruv that he places on the tree above Asar Tvachim, then it's a problem. It's not a good Eruv because he cannot, on the onset of Ben Hashmashos, bring the Eruv to him. Since we're talking about it's in the Rishus HaYachid, and he's situated in the Rishus Harabim. But if it's less than Asar Tvachim, then it'll be in the same Rishus, it'll be in the, it'll be in a Carmelis. And in a Carmelis, you'll be able to bring it to where he is in the Rishus Harabim on Ben Hashmashos. As the Gemara will explain now. The Gemara has a question. Really, the same question could be asked. How can he bring it from a Carmelis, if it's less than Asar Tvachim? Up until Asar Tvachim, it's a Carmelis. And a Carmelis is a din d'Rabbanan that you cannot bring from a Carmelis to the Rishus Harabim. So how could we then bring the Eruv on the onset of Shabbos to the Rishus Harabim from the Carmelis? The Gemara chooses to ask a different question and asks, instead, how can you go ahead and mishtamish be'ilan? Granted, it's less than Asar Tvachim, that's where the Eruv is situated, but how can you then take it from the Elon? There's a Isser d'Rabbanan to be mishtamish be'ilan. The Chacham said that one cannot climb on a tree. They cannot even lean on a tree. They can't place objects on a tree either, because a person might come to then take off a piece of that tree. He'll be toilish from the tree itself, a branch or something else from the tree, and that'll be an Isser d'Oraisa. So therefore, they said you can't be mishtamish be'ilan. So here the Gemara is asking, even if the Eruv is situated within Eser Tvachim of the tree, granted it's not a Rishus HaYachid, but how can you go ahead and mishtamish be'ilan? But again, the same question could be asked, how can you go ahead and take off the Eruv from the tree if it's going to be less than Asar Tvachim? It's still going to be up to Asar Tvachim is Carmelis. The Gemara answers, which is going to be an answer to both questions. We're talking about that he is situated down below and being shoyvis in the Rishus Harabim, as we said. And that's where he's going to be situated on Shabbos. And the tree itself, as we said in the Mishnah, if it's going to put the Eruv on top of higher than Asar Tvachim, then it's going to be invalid because the Rishus HaYachid. If it's going to be, however, up until Asar Tvachim, is going to be valid. Why? It explains the Gemara, because Rebbe, the Omar kol davar shehu mishum shvus lo gozru alav ben hashmashos. Any Isser d'Rabbanan during ben hashmashos, if it's for a mitzvah purpose or it's a purpose of doichak, then is valid. So Rebbe says, in this case, since it's a Carmelis, or in the case where it's a mishtamish be'ilan, both Isurei d'Rabbanan, and during the ben hashmashos for a mitzvah purpose of erev tchumim, it's mutter. Amru lahu Rav Nachman. Amar lahu Rav Nachman. he said, Rav Nachman to them, Yasher, that's correct, that's valid, that's indeed Yafer that you said. V'chein Amar Shmuel, indeed Shmuel, I heard him say as well, Yasher, that it's correct how we explain this Mishnah. Omru le, they said to him, the sages that were sitting with Rav Nachman, Pasrisu ba kuli hai. Did you analyze and then understand the Mishnah, all of this to this extent? Ask the Gemara, what were they asking? Inhu nami hachi kapasu ba. They themselves analyzed the Mishnah and stated in this way, and he just said, correct, it's valid. Elo hachi amrule. Rather, this is what they said to him. They weren't saying in wonderment, but rather they were asking the following question. Kavi'isu le begemara. Did you establish this analysis to be a final conclusion in the oral tradition? Amr lahu in. And he said to them, yes. Itmar Nami, the Gemara brings a statement that is exactly the way this was explained. Omar Rav Nachman, Omar Shmuel. Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel. Hacha bi'ilan ha'omer b'shus harabim askim. We're talking about an ilan that is situated in the b'shus harabim. Gavoya asara v'rochav arba. It's 10 tfachim high with 4 tfachim wide. This is the dimensions of b'shus hayachid, whereby if it's going to be higher than 10 tfachim, it's going to be, if it's going to be 10 times tfachim or higher, it's going to be a b'shus hayachid. You cannot then bring the eruv to you bein hashmoshois, whereby it's not going to be a good eruv. And therefore, if it's lower, however, than that amount, it's going to be less than 10 tfachim. So it's going to be valid because you could bring to you in Beish Moshos. It's going to be a Karmelis, or we said it's also Mishtamish Be'ilan. Okay, this is an Issur D'Rabbanan that Rebbe says is going to be something that we're unable to do on the onset of Shabbos. The Beish Moshos and Issur D'Rabbanan, a Makam Shvus, a mitzvah of Makam Shvus, or shuz of macham mitzvah rather, is going to be valid, and therefore that's what we're talking about over here as well. It says the Gemara, v'niskavin l'shvus lamato, and he lishbos lamato, and he has kavanah to then dwell there in the shus harabim over Shabbos. V'Rebbe the Omar called davar shehu mishum shvus lo yigazru Allah ben hashmoshos. Any matter that is a dirabanan, that is for a mitzvah purpose, that's going to be valid on ben hashmoshos, and therefore again one can then take the eruv that's going to be on the tree, and it's not a problem mishtamish be'ilan, and it's also not going to be a problem of taking from the Karmelis to the Rishus Harabim.